So this is what makes what I've been calling the human game, according to other mentor advisors, whatever else. This is what I've been calling the human game. What makes life in general, at least, so difficult, considering that you'll never really know enough of the things that you wish you would have known sooner, which is not as bad of a paradox as it looks. And if I don't even talk about that at all, then at least talking about what what difference it makes if nothing you really do has to matter. Even not so much from a nihilistic perspective, but more like if anything you do always helps, if everything you do is always a bigger step than you realize, no matter what, then why would you have to choose what that step is for the better things or worse, or even bad, um, good, better, and best, or even considering anything that could or cannot be real, or even better for that in itself. Stuff like that. I don't know that that made essence or energy in itself for saying stuff like that, but I never really needed to clarify most things at the beginning of a review, anyways. I just prefer to end my videos at certain minute or 5 second intervals because I'm that clever for some reason, and it still doesn't look like I'm doing it on purpose. But basically, those are two things particularly. What makes being a human on in this world difficult, in spite of not needing to know everything or even being able to, and what makes it so important to choose what you're doing, even if it's always going to be good and beautiful. I I know it looks kind of annoying that I look like someone who just spends all day in his room in his house or even any other person's house for that matter, not really looking like I'm doing much. But I know at some point I can't stay in this city or in this province forever. I have to find a way to make something work that isn't even something that I want to do. It might be something that's being a calling from me from the universe, something that has me leave this location for somewhere else. That's just an example, but change the location, as I tried to explain before in my own words, does not change your life. It changes the opportunities you can work with and maybe even choose a new slate. But you have to work on it yourself. You have to work on your own life yourself. You have to be able to do the inner work on your own. A change of location does not drastically change everything in your life, even if it seems that way at first. Believe me, there are a lot of times where I thought even the new things in my life would have surely introduced something incredibly be time manifestation kind of wise kind of thing, and it doesn't have to be like that. It never did have to be like that. It was very interesting how even though the bigger changes in my life didn't change much in itself, and that's because you had to be doing that inner work yourself foremost. And so even if it that's the contrast from even if it doesn't look like you're doing anything or going nowhere, you really are. That's the difference is that when you can tell yourself that you're doing a good job and you can already feel it, even if it doesn't look like it materially wise or sentimentally, I guess you could say, where it doesn't look like you're going anywhere. You're on that Nevada desert driving into the cosmos, and you're like, man, the car's not even moving. What the hell? It is. You're going like 100 miles per hour. Trust me, you are. You're going places. And I don't just get that advice from Mitch a lot, by the way. I can affirm for myself from other people and my own experiences. So I just relevant again, but keep not that part, but like as well as concepts traumas. I'm getting used to them though. I'm getting better about doing things even if I still have other traumas connected to those things. So the overkill, and I also touched this point before. The overkill Buddhism versus overkill affirming objective and fact stuff is is one of my own relentless battles of measure and balance. It's like I'm not even a Libra sign, but I talk about the freaking zodiac quite a bit, don't I? But it's like it's sort of like you can still believe what you do think is a fact or what is its own immutable lesson for your life. If you're supposed because you're supposed to be open minded anyways, but that's for everyone else to understand, not you apparently. Because if you're watching this video, you already know that's the point of all my philosophies, my abstractions of thought, and all these weird talking camera videos, and it's just you know not instead of making stop motion, which I still will make. I will not maybe not the ones I think I'm gonna make, but maybe eventually at some point. But in the tutorials as well, those will come. But um, so you're gonna want to open your mind as far as something like Buddhism, but you don't want to own. But you can certainly stand up to your own principles and foundations as per objective confirmation. You can still do that. There's a balance between those things. It doesn't have to be too cynical or contrarian. You can still work that out. But it's very difficult to be on this earth knowing that um, embracing the negative reality of how fragile and vulnerable human beings are just by the by without woo woo so much, it is pretty frightening. Anyone could go into this room, stamp a fucking bullet through my head, and I'd be then about Tony Cashman. And I embrace that reality without capping on that part. Okay, I didn't mean that pun, but I realize that that's a reality. It's like if someone were to destroy this physical body of mine, and I didn't have any say in it, or if I didn't even know why it happened, how I leave this material plane, it's like, yeah, I kind of, not something I would ask for, not even something that I would even uh, dare to happen, but it's just like it's still a negative reality. And that's why you don't want to, even when you can put the word toxic in front of positivity and make it look like it's its own theme. Because there was a guy who said, there's a mathematician called the Math Sorcerer, who I just found recently, who said that you could put the word toxic in front of any word, including positivity, and it would sound cool. So that's why that's what makes it interesting, is that you can say toxic positivity. But seriously, like when you have, again, Rich thought, but like when you have any kind of session of visualization, whereas most of them could be positive and looking forward to the future, if you have at least one or two of them focusing on only the negative on purpose by design, you're trying to embrace a reality that is there. Because even positivity is a reality, but it's like you have to be able to embrace some form of reality that isn't distinguished by what even Jordan Peterson describes as being. He uses two different phrases that are actually really useful, but it's like he basically describes, Peterson describes this as being naive and being maybe realist, because idealist is good. Idealism and realism are good. Idealism is not bad, and realism is not only good. But I'm going to use it as a good example for this alone. Naivety versus realism, where if you're being positive for the sake of being positive, it may not be as guided as maybe a realism of, yes, I know this is a negative reality. I know that these are dangers that have existed and have screwed things over and are terrible as they are, but I know how to work this out in spite of them, if not because of them. And that's one of the most, that's not only being positive, that's actually being very resourceful. And those aren't people who make excuses about evil or wasting time or all that. It's just it depends on what, or danger. It depends on how you use it. A lot of these things, like with attitude and even negative aspects of life, are down to how to use them, even without using straight up horrific examples of anything. It's just that's how it would work in that regard. So living can really suck, because you know that you're fragile to an extent, and that you could be compromised in any regard, emotional, physical, body. You could be destroyed on the inside. You could be destroyed on the outside. Anything, all these things is like freaking like, because a lot of my own traumas personally have been emotional. I didn't lose my freaking arm amputee wise. I didn't freaking, well, I mean, not yet. If you know, you know. But like, I still use my own meaning for other things. But like the butterfly scar, physical thing. But like yeah, it's like, so it's because my emotional trauma is something that seems physical in its own meaning, and it's like that. By that I mean, like, it feels almost as bad, if not worse, than physical trauma. Because with physical trauma, if you have to be objective to describe it, then you didn't know why it was bad in the first place, in my opinion. But emotional trauma array spells to you something more direct than it getting applied just because it's in the mind. Is because you can still understand it because of the emotional context. Than if you were to literally lose your arm or leg, or lose your job, or drop out of college, or freaking go to jail, or almost get killed by a train or something like that. Those things still are important in their own right, but it's like, but if you suffer something psychologically or emotionally, you're not supposed to have the answers because they're within you, and those people don't realize that. Even if you can still have closure of something that comes from the outside, that won't make it any easier. There's someone who, Rich again said this, maybe last time I'll say his name again in this video shield, is that the more answers you have answered from the external, the worse it gets. You're supposed to solve this on your own, and maybe for some of them not even solve them in the first place. But so yeah, life can suck. But you don't ignore that negative reality to confirm a sort of positivity that's too naive. You try to make it work out and be resourceful. You don't justify the bad things, but you make them work in a way where you would be so grateful for them happening, you wouldn't even change the past, even if it was horrible. That's the stature of being an acceptance of what happened, understanding that it happened for a reason, even if you don't know what the reason is, taking action with that lesson you learned, and then finally applying gratitude, looking back when you finally succeed those things that you would never have had access to had that not had that bad thing had not happened. So now we get into the next thing, which is outside of how you embrace a negative reality for a better life theory. How even if life can suck, why would it matter what you choose to do if everything you do is always going to be good? And this is not to be cynical, as in nothing matters what you do or everything you do will literally be good. That's not necessarily what I'm saying here, if even at all. But this is more the Starseed philosophy kind of thing again. I don't mean to dismay it by saying Starseed philosophy because I still already believe in that stuff, but that's just for everyone else's, guys, including my own. So I'm not trying to make excuses there. But as far as the Starseed volunteer paradigm, is that as believing myself to be a Starseed is like a where I know just spreading positivity in my own way, maybe doing a lot less than I should be doing, but even if just the material plane, but it's like knowing that I'm still spreading light and lessons in my own way, not having to worry about what I'm doing or not doing, how that comes about. And I know I won't be in this, like, I know things won't stay the same forever, and I can make the most of that too, but it's like but where they are now, I'm not fidgeting, I'm not freaking losing my mind. Oh my gosh, I had all this time to do this if I still didn't do it. What the heck? No, because why do you think I still look young? Like, I don't stress myself over stupid shit. I don't freaking like, I don't like go into like every like connection I have nowadays thinking that this has to be worth it or this has to be deep and meaningful with infinite numbers of people. Extrovert and multitasker here indeed. But like compared to people who think I'm an introvert or just an artist. But another video maybe. Yeah, I don't force things to be as good as I want them to be, because deep down I'm very ambitious and very full throttled of a person. Because as that last statement just specified, extrovert and multitasker, I see much more myself as a philosopher and as an artist anyways, that would be more implied of how I seem to behave if you really think about who I am as a person, and even your own perspective, than if you were to only pay attention to me having a simple life and only being a nomad in his own head, really. But there's more to it than that even then. So I take that for granted too, if you know what I mean. The thing with looking like you're doing nothing, if that even, because that technically already includes me, the way I'm describing it, but not in the holistic sense, if I even use the word right, is that you are doing a way better job not forcing yourself to do things that you don't want to do, or even things that you think are still important in your life, by taking your time and pacing yourself. I think most people who even still choose to be ambitious or even live a still somewhat of a simple life, because there are some people who live like a sort of like a simple, peaceful lifestyle and they don't even feel peaceful. And it's like, how did you screw that up? It's like, no, but seriously, I'm not trying to judge them, but it's like, and then the ambitious types who are like, they're successful. There are some people I think I know about that already who are like that, who are already successful and ambitious, and they still don't feel fulfilled. But then there are people who claim to be peaceful and nomadic and monk-like, and they don't even like have any amount of like glaciacier for their own lifestyle. And it's like, Jesus, like, I think my advantage was that I found out how to be more peaceful and simple because I had everything else to compare it to. I had every other high ambition and high stakes risk, high reward kind of thing going on for me without needing to be shy about it. I was spreading light my whole life. I was spreading insight my whole life without even realizing it. And so it was like the things that I started to learn how to trust about myself more over time got easier as a result of thinking that it wasn't even there or even not knowing it was there. So it was like, it was beautiful. But I'm doing things that I don't realize I'm doing for the way much of the better than the worse. And I think it's the same for you guys too. You have to believe that even if it doesn't look like you're doing much, it does technically matter what you're doing. But a lot of what you do, even without actually doing much in your opinion, maybe, is more than you realize it is, and for the better. I believe that it is like that. I hope you trust me on that. It is way more for the better than you could ever imagine. And I think any way that you don't want to have to throw a woo-woo context on this, fine. But I'm just here to say that it's like you, starseed or not, long-term human or not, you can still make an impression on your life that probably makes more sense at first starting off slow-paced cultivation-wise, pacing yourself to be in your own lane and not worrying about what people think of you. And then maybe someday you'll be able to make drastic changes, both conscious and permissible by other means. Things that are outside your control that you allow because they're good anyways, and things that you do for yourself that may still cause mistakes and consequences, but they came about in a way that wasn't forced and they were still ready when the time came to be.